So how did y'all two first meet?
Boy, it's been a long time ago.
It has. I started out as a pickup shooter out of Fort Bragg. He was on the Army team at Fort Benning. That's where I first got to know him. And I was reminding him of a prank that he pulled on us one time.
Oh, yeah?
I think it's kind of, it wasn't funny then, it's funny now.
All right, let's hear about it. What was this prank?
Well, you know, all of us young pickup shooters out of these different bases would all meet up at Fort Benning. And then from there, they would make their selection for who was going to go to Camp Perry and so on. Well, I'm not sure who assigned him the task of giving us a class.
Red,
Red. Probably Red Mosley, who assigned him the task of giving us a class on how to shoot hardball. So they gathered up all of us pickup shooters. There's probably 75 of us in the pecan grove. He said, "You're going to get a class from Hershel Anderson." So we were all excited. Wow! So Hershel shows up, and he's got this. He pulls out a 3x5 card.
Yeah.
And he draws a picture of a 45 hardball round.
A round.
Yeah,
Just a round.
Just a round. Anyway, he draws on that 3x5 card a picture of a 45 hardball round. And then he takes and staples it up on his tree in the pecan grove. And we're all standing around this circle. He says, "All right, y'all gather around here where you can see this card." So we did that. So we're all standing there. He says, "Now I want you to stare at that card." So we're standing there staring and staring and staring. And we'd been there a minute or two. And I thought, what the heck? You know, and so I kind of glanced out the side of my eye to just kind of look back where he had gone. And he was walking away. He was leaving us there. And he left us in the pecan grove to stare at that tree. Like a bunch of idiots. And he never came back.
This was the equivalent of a snipe hunt for the AMU.
Oh boy, what you done that?
Yeah, well, I have to get back at Red somewhere.
So how did you plan this out, Hershel?
I did.
He probably got broadsided.
Or you just did it on the spur of the moment?
Yeah, Lord. Red didn't give me no more classes, though.
He learned his lesson. Well, did you ever get any real training out of Hershel in later years or months? Or
Well,
Didn't get no training down there. I didn't know nothing.
you didn't know nothing? Just look at the sight and squeeze the trigger?
we spent a lot of time watching these guys shoot. Most of the training we got was from the coaches that were assigned to us.
Now, who were those?
Ronnie Bowles and Ron Martier.
Yeah.
And then some of the other regional coaches that came from the different Army regions. Yeah.
I got
But those are the two primaries,
Pick it up there.
Ronnie Bowles and Ron Martier.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, because I think Aubrey was the all-Army coach.
Yeah.
So he just issued out instructions to the other coaches.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
He'd come up and he'd say, he'd get right in your face. "I told you to do this." Yeah, he'd point that finger right in your chest, boy.
Really?
Yeah, old Aubrey, he was something else. I remember the first time that I had an encounter with him. It wasn't an encounter. He actually probably saved me in shooting. We were shooting a match at in Pensacola, Florida, Fiesta Five Flags, and I was brand new, just coming out of Fort Bragg, and I was a decent shooter because at Fort Bragg you weren't allowed to travel unless you had a 280 average with a hardball gun, and so I was on the road with the team, and I was having a real bad day at the range. I mean, I was shooting pretty lousy. And so I told him, I said, "Y'all ought to just send me back home because it just ain't working. I don't want to embarrass you. I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to embarrass my team." I said, "So probably just ought to end my tour right now and just send me home." And Aubrey heard me, and he came over to me. He said, "Come here, let's go over here and talk." So we went to the side. He didn't like that. He said, "Let's go over here to the side and talk." So he pulled me off to the side. He says, "Sounds to me like you need a day off." He says, "Why don't you take tomorrow off?" He said, "You just go back and relax and don't worry about coming in and shoot tomorrow. Just take a day out, go to the beach or something." And that was it. And I came back the following day, and then everything was just fine. I shot like I've been shooting. So it helped me out.
So, yeah. Well, did you ever have any bad days, Hershel, that you had to get a day off or some other sort of good advice?
Oh boy, they want me to leave all the time. I started out in Sand Hill, Fort Benning.
Okay.
At Sand Hill, yeah.
Sand Hill, I was in a tank
You
company
need some
there.
of butter.
And the coach, he says,
Thank you.
we shot the what do you call it, qualification competition, and I was high in that in the company. And this Sergeant First Class Schumann came by the company over and he said, "Hey, we got a little pistol team. You want to join us?" And I said, "I don't know if they'll let me do that." And he said, "No, I got permission to get who I want." So I went up there, and they had a little shack up there, and there was about 6 people. And that's where I started out. And I couldn't even keep them on the target.
Really?
25 yards. I started coaching, and I
Did
kept
y'all start out
getting
with
better.
45s or 22s?
Yeah,
or?
45. They figured anybody could shoot a 22.
Right.
But that's what we shot, was 45s. And that's where I got my start, right there. And then I went from there. I went over in O Station, or what do you call it, team. And I won that in the 3rd Army matches. Then 3rd Army picked me up, and I didn't even get to stay there. I went to Camp Perry with the Army team, and the Army team picked me up right after that.
What year would that have been?
Now you ask me questions I don't know.
Okay.
That was in the 60s. Started out about the 60s.
Well, now, growing up in Grundy County, Tracy City, I'm sure you did some shooting, at least a rifle or a shotgun growing up.
Oh, yeah. Squirrel hunting, stuff like that.
But you never shot any pistol much at all? Or?
No competition or anything like
Right.
that.
What about you, Ray? How did you get started?
Mine's kind of a strange story. When I got started, our company was in support for the battalion, and all we did was go around doing police call. That's all we did for a month. And we were into that month of doing maintenance for the post, because we went around to neighborhoods and ranges and you name it. We had to go out there and do police call and clean things up and make them pretty again. Well, on this particular day, my squad got selected to go out to Range 7 in Fort Bragg. And so, as usual, I got the hose and the rakes and the shovels and the sandbags and trash bags and everything that you normally take to go on a police call, and got a deuce and a half on a motor pool and went down to Range 7. We get to Range 7, and I reported to the guy that was in charge, and I told him where we were from. He says, okay. He goes, and he looks into the truck, he goes, "You brought the wrong equipment." And I thought, well, what are you going to have us do that this is what we normally bring? He goes, "No." He goes, "I requested a team from the 1st of the 505 to represent the battalion in the division matches, and that's going to be in 3 days." And I looked at him, I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." He goes, "Just do this." He says, "Go back to the company, draw some 45s and some magazines, and then come back out here." I said, "All right." So I did that. I got back in, took all the equipment back, reported to my platoon sergeant, told him what I had experienced, and he says, "I think I vaguely remember hearing something like that in a meeting." He goes, "Let me check with the platoon leader." So he did. He came back. He says, "Yeah, go ahead and get the equipment and go back out there." I said, "Okay." So I drew the 45s and the magazines and went back out to the range. And he says, "All right." So he lined us up on this 50. I'm shooting at 50 yards. That target set up, one for each of us. And he says, "Anybody here shot 45 before?" And I said, "I carried one in Vietnam every once in a while." He goes, "That doesn't count." He goes, "Anybody else?" And nobody else did. So he says, "All right." He says, here's how you load your magazines. Here's how you load the gun safely. He goes, "Now, what I want you to do is take," and he gave us each a box of 50 rounds. He said, "I want you to take and shoot all your shots at your target. Take as much time as you want." All right, so we loaded up our magazines and we started shooting it. So we were digging up the dirt anywhere from 10 yards out all the way out to the target, just dirt flying up. And
Oh, wow.
after about 10 minutes or less, we were done shooting 50 rounds of 45 because we was loading them up and shooting as fast as we could. After we got done, he says, all right, let's cease fire. And then he checked the line, make sure it was safe. He goes, all right, let's go down range, look at our targets. On my target, I had 2 hits. I'm not even sure I put them on there.
Could have been anybody.
It could have been anybody because across the board, I think there was 6 of us. We had like a dozen hits total.
Wow.
Way
I mean, it was
started
bad.
out, yeah.
It was bad. So he says, all right, now I know where we got a starting point. He goes, let's go back. And he says, get in the bleachers. We're going to have a block on marksmanship instruction. So we sat in the bleachers for a good hour and a half, 2 hours. And all he talked about was the basic fundamentals on how to shoot. And so we paid attention and all that. So after he got done, he goes, all right, now let's go back out to the range and we're going to try it again, only this time apply some of the things that we discussed during the class. So, okay, so we went back out on the front line, another 50 rounds of 45 and we shot. And this time I had 48 hits on my target.
Wow.
I mean, they were all over the place.
Uh-huh.
But I had 48 hits. I counted them up.
Yeah.
And I was reasonably sure most of them were mine.
Wow.
Because we didn't have as much dirt getting kicked up this time. And everybody else did much better as well. So we trained that day and then the following day. And then the third day we had the division matches. Well, I found out during those first 2 days of training that if I aimed in the middle of the target and did like I was supposed to do, align the sights and pull the trigger and did all those things that I was trained to do, that I could shoot a nice tight shot group, but it was in the lower left-hand portion of the target. So I thought to myself, and I didn't say nothing to nobody else because I knew that they'd say something to me. I thought to myself, what would happen if I aimed high right on the target? And so throughout the whole match, during the division matches, I aimed high right in the upper right-hand corner where the cardboard went like this. That's where I aimed. That's my aiming point. And I put the majority of my shots in the black during the match. And after we got done, the coach, who was actually a shooter on the team, I had outshot him.
Really?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I outshot the coach, and he says, I don't believe it. He says, 2 days ago you couldn't even hit the target, and now you outshoot me? He goes, no way. There's just no way. He goes, I'm going to submit your name for advanced marksmanship training to the post team. And I look at him and I said, what does that mean? He goes, what that means is they'll pick you up on the team, and that's going to be your duty assignment. That's where you will go. You'll still be assigned to your unit, but you'll be SD over there, special duty to the post team. And I thought, okay.
Yeah.
That was my start.
What did you think about this, Betty, when it happened?
But
You can too.
I wasn't with him yet.
we weren't married yet.
You weren't married yet?
No, that happened about 1973, 74.
So that was right before we got married.
Yeah, that was just before we got
I
married.
don't want to. I get nothing out of it. I just got to put together.
Well, what did you think when he told you he was shooting competitively? Did you know anything about this?
That's
or-
how we met.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Tell him how we met.
My brother-in-law was also on the Fort Bragg team.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, my sister's husband. Actually, they live in Minville now. And he was on the team, Fort Bragg team, and so I came to visit them, and then that's where I met Ray.
Really?
And I came to Fort
Wow.
Bragg to visit them.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Why don't you tell him about your deal with Red?
Red Mosley. The first year I got picked up on a team at Fort Benning for the All-Army team, I was one of the selectees to travel to Camp Perry. Well, back then they had big teams. I mean, huge teams. 50, 60 people that they would pick up. But they would cut them down. They would just start cutting them down as any little infraction of anything, and they would cut. You'd get cut from the team and sent back wherever you came from. Well, on one particular day, a training day, the Rifle and Pistol Club was right there on Phillips Range.
Right.
So we used to go in there and get a cup of coffee and jaw jack for a few minutes. Then we'd go back out to the line and shoot and back and forth. Well, I happened to be coming out of the club house And I just stepped out the door, and Red Mosley was just stepping in. He was, I think he was a master sergeant or sergeant major, I'm not sure.
Probably master sergeant.
Yeah.
That's all I can remember.
Yeah. Well, he was coming in, and he was in charge of the whole shooting program. And he stopped me on that little short little porch. He looks at me, he goes, "Where's your hat?" My black hat. Because back then, as soon as you got picked up, everybody got issued a black hat. You were required to wear it for training and shooting and so on. Well, I was in a hurry that morning to get to the range, so I forgot my black hat. I left it on the dresser or whatever in the room, and I didn't have it. I had my regular hat from Fort Bragg. He goes, "Where's your hat?" And I explained to him that I had forgotten it and that I left it in the room and so on and so forth. He goes, "Okay." He goes, "No problem." He says, "Go back and get it." I said, "Yes, sir." And he says, "While you're there, get everything else that we assigned to you, turn it back in, and go back to wherever you came from. I don't want to see you out here anymore on this range."
Oh.
I got cut that day because I didn't have my hat.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah, most of anybody.
And I was one of the top brand new hardball shooters.
Yeah.
So I get cut. Of course, I go back to Fort Bragg thinking, that's it, I'm done.
Right.
I got cut from the all-arm team. As soon as I get back, they're going to send me back to the unit. That was my thinking. I get back and I reported to the unit. And I said, and I explained to him what happened. And he said, don't worry about it. They do that all the time. They're just trying to cut the team down to a manageable amount that they're going to take forward to Camp Perry. He says, and we got a match coming up this coming weekend. He says, go ahead and get your stuff ready to go. You're gonna go to match with us to that one. I said, okay. I went to that match shooting. Back then, all us new shooters shot double ball, hard ball. I went to that match and I broke 2,600.
Really?
First time with a hardball gun. And as soon as I did that, they said, that'll teach them. He says, as soon as we get back, I'm gonna call them and tell them they cut their best new hardball shooter.
There you go.
Because he didn't have a hat.
Now that a hat can't shoot.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled programming with this word from our sponsor.
Since 1992, Steyr air pistols have won more medals than all the other brands combined. More Olympic golds, world championships, and more World Cups.
Right after I started shooting in the 60s, I went to Camp Perry with the Army team.
Really?
Yeah.
And then after that, they brought you right into the unit, and
Yeah. Come back.
There you were.
Signed me right to the unit, yeah. And I stayed there the rest of my shooting experience, except I took my regular tours, you know. I'd go to Germany or Vietnam or whatever.
Right.
When I got assigned assignment, I took it. I didn't
well,
stay
all
there.
right. Tell me about that. What'd you do in Vietnam?
I stayed hid.
Stayed hid.
No, I went over. There was 2 sniper teams at Fort Benning training.
Uh-huh.
And I said, well, I was on orders to Korea. And I said, well, shoot, they're shooting at them over there, so I might well go to Vietnam with one of them teams. So I got on one of the sniper teams, and luckily I got on the best one. They went to July, and the other one went down south, and they just disowned them right away, so cut them out.
Was Lone Wigger with you then?
No, he came in and replaced us.
Okay.
Yeah, y'all were training snipers, or y'all were actually?
We were training snipers. Of course, you got to go out in the field with them too.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And see how they do. But we train snipers, and we take 32 snipers, 18 days. Then we'd go out with them in the field and come back. Then we get another team and we'd train them. And that was what we done the whole year I was over there. Then Wigger brought his team in, and they done the same thing. Of course, Wigger changed it and made it a little more difficult, and went to the field with them, trained them out in the field instead of there on the range, just shooting, you know. And, that was the big difference in that.
And y'all were training using M21s, I guess?
XM21s, yeah.
Yeah.
Call them XM.
XM21s.
XM21 because they was just trying them out. So.
Okay.
But we had an armor with us. The team had armor. Thomason out of, he'd come back, he went to Colorado out there and trained people out there how to build guns and stuff. He built our guns, and we trained from 300, 0 at 300, and out to 1,000 yards. Had half a man silhouettes. And it was kind of like a silhouette from the knees up at 1,000 yards.
E-type silhouette.
Yeah.
Now, did you ever shoot any competitive rifle?
No.
I mean, it looks like if you were training sniper skills, you could have transferred.
I shot a rifle match at Fort Benning with a rifle series.
Right.
And but I never did go into.
You never want to lay on your belly and
No,
compete.
it seemed like we were so busy, shooting pistol that we didn't have time to go out and shoot the rifle. Other than that, that's what we did. And I spent like from, I believe it's 60. And 60, I went to the Army team. No, went to Camp Perry with them. Then I signed the Army team in the late part of 60. And I think I signed the Army team in 61. So 62, went to Germany. I was on the pistol team over there. I was in a...
He didn't look old. He was
well, you went to Germany. I mean, was that when you met Trouty, obviously?
No.
That was the second tour?
In 57.
We'd
57.
We'd been married 50 years for them.
Oh, really?
Next month is, next year is 60 years we married.
60 years. Wow, that's a great accomplishment.
When I was a recruit in Berlin.
Yeah, we get done in
we
that
met,
pipe
we got
too.
married over here.
Comes with it.
Yeah.
Well, this was way before your shooting career that you went to Germany.
All right.
How
came back.
How did you meet him, Trouty?
My girlfriend's
Blind
sister
date.
went going up there.
Your girlfriend's sister. It's the same story over here.
Well, she went up there, she go with an American girl there, and I just spoke up with somebody. And I said, well, I go and see what they like. That's where I met him.
She fell in love right away.
Right away. Well, did you fall in love right away?
I guess I did.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, boy. Yeah,
You got married in 59.
we went together and then got married in 59.
Really?
Yep, of course you had to go through a whole rigmarole full of things. To sign up and sign this and that, and get married to a
foreign national, yeah.
We went through that, and then we got married. Had a big blowout in her mother's garden.
Really?
Yeah,
And what?
in her mother's garden.
Oh, it wasn't big. It was just a few of them guys up there. Gosh, my mother had a garden bed, he said there. And then one guy, he must have been 8 feet long. He hung over and over.
Well, what were your Vietnam experiences, Ray?
I was with the Marine Corps, and I wasn't with the Army.
Well, that's a little bit different.
It is. I had
They had to get out there and pound the bushes.
I had gone through a recon school just before I went over there, and so I always assumed that I would be assigned to a recon unit. Well, we get to Vietnam, and they put us in this theater-looking place and lined us all up against the wall, and they just went down counting, and I think they got to like 18 or 20 or something like that, and it was the guy right next to me. Everybody from his side that way, they all got assigned to a recon unit, First Force. And then the rest of us got assigned to other infantry units. I got assigned to the Hotel 27. And my very first experience in the bush was, I think it was 7 of us that went out to get assigned to this company. And we're flying around in a Chinook, getting ready to come down, and you could see them on the ground all coming in from wherever they were coming in from. And while we were flying around, as we were looking down, all of a sudden there was an explosion in the middle of this group that was there. So our helicopter turned into a medevac helicopter because a bunch of people got injured. And what it turned out to be was somebody did something with a hand grenade and it went off inside.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so we get down on the ground and they instantly assign us to squads. And the squad that I got assigned to, one of the people that got injured was the point man. So I now became my first duty in Vietnam was to be the point man because of my
recon training.
Recon training. So they put me up as a point man first day.
So being a new guy and no experience, but you had the recon training, so
yeah.
you were.
So they assigned me as a point man right off the bat, and we weren't there a couple hours, and the squad leader has me a map. He goes, "This is where we are." Showed me a spot on the map. He goes, "And this is where we want to go." He says, "Pick a route. Let's go." Okay, so here we go.
Wow.
So I was an infantry guy with the Marine Corps. Eventually got assigned to a company recon team, and we would go out for 2 or 3 weeks at a time away from the company, but we would follow them around. We would always be within a click or two near where the company was. Ended up doing a little time in the tunnels.
Full stop. My respect needle just went way off the gauge. The Vietnamese started building these tunnels during the Japanese occupation of World War II and continued throughout the French Indochina War. Here you can see the complexity of the tunnels with 3 or 4 layers. By the mid-1960s, it was possible to travel more than 200 miles underground.
Yeah, so I had to carry a 45.
Well, I was supposed to ask, was that where you carried a 45?
Yep.
How did you get involved in that? That's some serious respect for me, crawling around in the damn dark, looking for something that's maybe not even there.
Well, it was because of my size.
Okay.
I only weighed like 120 pounds back then, small.
And tunnel rat?
Yeah. So I did a little bit of that
That's scary.
for the platoon that I was on.
Booby trapped in there and everything.
Well, I found an awful lot of them. Yeah. I found a lot. I mean, I never tripped one, but other people that weren't as cautious as I was did.
You did still get wounded.
I did. I mean, I got medevac from there, but it wasn't just me. It was a bunch of us. I fragged myself one time.
Really? You just threw it and it wasn't far enough away in the tunnel?
I'll tell you, well, I was chasing. I was walking point and I saw these wet footprints coming out of a creek bed that we were crossing. I looked and I said, that's VC. It had to be. We operated in a free fire zone. I mean, if they were out there, they were.
You saw movement. It was
a target. It was a target. So I saw these footprints coming out of this creek bed, and I looked. I said, well, that's a VC. So I take off. Everybody's following me, and I followed the trail to this area that just went down, and then there was a hole that went into underneath somewhere. So it looked like an entrance to a cave or something, underground thing. So I thought, he's in there. I said, I ain't going in there without a little bit of support. So I took a hand grenade and I threw it this way to try to get it into the hole, but it missed. It hit the wall. It hit the wall and then dropped down, and it wasn't that far down. So I ran back to get out of the way, just wait for it, and I ducked down. And between me and where that hole was just a bunch of grown, just shrubbery and stuff like that. So I'm sitting there waiting, and all of a sudden, boom, that thing goes off. Next thing I know, I'm going like, it felt like somebody kicked me in the head. It's like, my eyes are blinking like this, and I look down and I see blood just splattering down where my hand was, supporting myself up. And I thought, what? And I go like this, and I caught some shrapnel in my forehead. And it was just a tiny little piece that managed to get through all that shrubbery.
They could have been a big piece. Whoa.
So all they did was just put a Band-Aid on me and say, you'll be all right. And we just continued on from there.
Get back to
that
work.
was the first time I got medevac. No, I didn't get medevac in that one. When I got medevac time, we were following a major group of VC and NVA, and they were supposed to be up on top of this mountain. And the day previous, or earlier that day, that same day, this colonel came in with a bunch of his people in a helicopter, and he requested our recon team to take him out to a particular spot.
You called too, aren't you?
So we took him there, and he's going through his maps. He's talking to his people. We're just providing security, and I heard him say, because I was close enough, he says, "We're going to take that hill tonight. We're going to hit it tonight," and that's all I got. So we head back, take him back. Well, that evening, by that evening, we had, I think it was 58. I want to say it was 58. It was 50-some Chinooks that were in the air at one time, just flying like this. Every once in a while, one would come down, drop off a platoon, and then go back up and join. And then another one would come down, drop off a platoon and join. And they would just drop them just like this. So it was like an entire division that was out there. Well, that evening, we all got our assignments to start getting in, and we were operating in triple canopy after dark, and you couldn't see nothing. I mean, you couldn't see nothing this close. So as part of our group, we had a dog handler, a KC scout, which was a Kit Carson scout. It was basically a VC that had surrendered, and now they became people that would lead you around. So I had a dog handler, KC scout, and then one of our people with them. And we're going through, like I said, triple canopy, dark, you couldn't see nothing. And all of a sudden the sun just shows up, just like that, out of nowhere. I mean, just a bright, super large sun that just popped up. And next thing I know, I'm getting thrown back, and I got hit in the chest area, and my legs, and everybody in front of me gone. The dog handler, and I think the KC scout, they all vaporized. There was like nothing. And then the rest of us got hit. And after I got hit, I thought, I've been hit. So I jumped off to the side because I knew the next thing was going to happen was machine gun fire.
Right.
But that never came. But I jumped off to the side. Next thing I know, there's a medic on me saying, he's looking me over with a flashlight. He goes, "You'll be okay." And then he goes to the next guy, and then "You'll be okay." And then he goes to the next guy. And then I got carried, because I couldn't walk. I got carried to an area where... Sorry. It's tough.
Very tough. Very tough.
Anyway, I got carried away, and then they put me in a helicopter and hauled me off. I ended up going to Japan for like 30 days while I was recovering. And everybody kept telling me, you got the $1 million wound, man. You going home? Great. At the end of the 30 days, they sent me right back. And this time they assigned me to a different unit, because the unit that I was assigned to at the time rotated back to the U.S.
Oh, no.
So I got assigned to a different unit.
God.
Wow.
Golly. Well, when did you get out of the Marines and come into the
I spent 2 years in the Marine Corps, and because when I enlisted, they were drafting a lot of people. And when I went down to the recruiting station, my first choice was the Air Force. This is funny. My first choice was the Air Force. So I walk in the Air Force office. I said, "Hey, I want to enlist." He goes, "All right, come on in, have a seat." Blah blah blah. He says, "Well, have you ever been in trouble?" And I said, "Like what kind of trouble?" He goes, "I don't think we'll be needing you." He says, "You can go next door." He said, you can go next door. Next door was a Marine station. So I went next door.
Actually has a Marine recruiter doing it.
That Marine recruiter was paying that Air Force guy so much ahead.
So I ended up joining the Marine Corps.
What was the point? You might as well just waited to get drafted.
That's true. But when we started doing the paperwork, he says, "All right, let's do a basic 4-year enlistment." I said, "No, they're drafting people for 2 years." He goes, yeah, but that's a draftee. He goes, you're enlisting. You're requesting to be enlisted. I said, yeah, but I'm requesting 2 years. He goes, all right, I guess we can do 2 years.
So you were in 2 years, 13 months of which was, I guess, either in country or in Japan recovering.
Yes.
I mean, did that 30-day period you were in Japan count as part of your 13 months?
I think it did.
Yeah,
Surely
it would have,
but
knowing the military. Yeah.
So I joined the Marine Corps. I did 2 years, and after I got out of the Marine Corps, I went back home, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's where I grew up. And I went back to see all my old friends, and they were still doing the same dumb stuff that we were doing when I was there with them. And I thought to myself, these guys haven't grown up. This ain't for me. So less than 30 days, I joined the Army.
Really?
Yep.
And why did you go into the Army and not back into the Corps?
When I was in boot camp in San Diego, I went to boot camp in San Diego. There was a guy in our platoon who had already been in the Army. And I asked him, I said, why are you in the Army? I mean, what are you doing in the Marine Corps if you just did time in the Army? He says, well, I wanted to try all branches of service. He says, so I did the Army, now I'm doing the Marine Corps. When I get done here, then I'm going to try the Air Force or the Navy.
Really?
Or this. And I thought, well, that's a pretty good idea. So that kind of was in my head when I decided to try the Army. I was intentioning on trying different branches of service after I joined the Army.
You don't get to come with reserve?
And so that's why I joined the Army. But I did it in under 30 days that I got out of the Marine Corps. I joined the Army.
Wow.
And I never tried the other branches of service because right near the end of my enlistment, which would have been 73, 74, right about the time I started shooting, I got introduced to shooting and fell in love with it. So I never left it.
Well, that was me.